හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 4th of October 2023. Overseas investments. President suggests investing a share of the EPF and ETF funds overseas. Reform perform. First round of SOE divestitures to be completed by the first quarter of next year.
In the first quarter of 2024 and the others during the second quarter of 2024.
Price spike. Gas prices to be revised from midnight tonight with price hikes hinted for the future.
We are expecting the global market prices to increase in the next few months too. However, we will ensure that the burden to the consumers will be minimized.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News, First at 9. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at all of our top stories right now. President Ranil Wickremesinghe is intimated that all global media platforms, including social media, should participate in a discussion on whether to enter into mutual agreements or adhere to their country's respective legal framework. Addressing an event, the president said the European Union and other countries, including Sri Lanka, are exploring avenues as to how to subject online media to standardization.
An event to honour veteran journalist Derana English was held in Colombo under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
මම දැන් අහන්නේ මොකක්ද අනාගතය කියලා. ඒකයි අපිට හිතන්න තියෙන්නේ. එදා තියෙන ඕනෑම මාධ්‍යයක් තමන්ගේ රටේ නීතියට යටත් වුණා. ඒ නීතියෙන් පාලනය වුණා. අද තියෙන ඔන්ලයින්, අද තියෙනවා සමාජ මාධ්‍ය. කාටවත් පාලනයක් නැහැ. ඒ අය කියන්නේ අපිට ඕනේ එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒකේ දැන් විශාල ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. යුරෝපීය සංගමය අනික් රටවල් ගණනාවක් අපේ ලංකාවෙත් බලන්නේ කොහොමද මේ ඔන්ලයින් විශේෂයෙන්ම මාධ්‍ය කොහොමද පාලනයකට ගෙනියන්නේ. ඒ අය ලෑස්තිද ජාත්‍යන්තර ගිවිසුමකට එන්න? නැත්නම් එක එක රටේ නීති වලට යටත් වෙනවාද කියලා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක බොහෝ දුරට තීරණය වෙන්නේ යුරෝපීය සංගමයෙන් සිදුවෙන දියුණුව පිළිබඳ. අනික් අතට මේක නිසා විශේෂයෙන්ම පුවත්පත් කලාවට ප්‍රශ්නේ. මුද්‍රිත මාධ්‍යයට තමයි වැඩියෙන්ම වැදිලා තියෙන්නේ. අනික් අතට රූපවාහිනියටත් වැදිලා තියෙනවා. කොහොම හරි ගුවන් විදුලිය එකෙන් යම් කිසි වෙලාවක බේරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔය අපිට අහන්න තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද අනාගතයේ මේක හැදෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ අතරතුරේදී මම හිතන්නේ මාධ්‍ය ශාස්ත්‍රයේත් විශාල පරිවර්තනයක් සිදු වෙනවා.
General Secretary of the Samagi Janabalavegia, MP Ranjit Madhuma Bandara, member Rehan Jayavikrama, and Freedom People's Congress member Professor J.L. Pires filed another petition before the Supreme Court challenging the new online safety bill, naming the Attorney General as its respondent. The petitioners accused that the bill, which was published in the Government Gazette on the 18th of September and presented to Parliament yesterday, violates the fundamental rights of the country's people. Voicing concerns of the bill empowering the Online Safety Commission to determine the rights of the citizens and issue directives on persons without a hearing, the group of MPs said that the bill takes away all procedural safeguards known to law, such as the right to a hearing and notice prior to any determinations of the rights of the citizens. The petitioners said that the president, possessing the sole discretion to appoint the Online Safety Commission and its members, makes way for the exercise of arbitrary powers. Petitioners further said that the clauses of the bill are excessively onerous and disproportionate in the measures that the Online Safety Commission may impose. Prior to this, on Tuesday, social activist and independent journalist Tarindu Uduvaragedara filed a petition against the Online Safety Bill, alleging that certain provisions do not comply with the Constitution. In Parliament today, President Ranil Wickremesinghe intimated that part of the money from the Employees Provident Fund and the Employees Trust Fund should be invested overseas. Speaking in Parliament today, President Wickremesinghe stated that the government will bring in both the EPF and ETF under an independent board for future actions in this regard.
දැන් ඔබතුමා මාස 6කට විදුලිය මිලදී ගන්නවා කිව්වා හදිසි මිලදී ගනී. නමුත් දැන් වැස්ස තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ විදුලි බිල වැඩි කිරීමට හේතු මොනවද?
මේ වර්ෂාපතනය ලැබුණත් තවමත් අවශ්‍ය වර්ෂාපතනය ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ අපේ ජල විදුලි බලාගාර තිබෙන ප්‍රදේශවල. ජුලි මාසයේ විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය ඉල්ලා සිටියේ 3%කින් අඩු කරන්න කියලා. නමුත් මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී තිබුණු දත්ත මත ඔවුන් තීරණය කරා ඒක 14%කින් අඩු කරන්න. 14%කින් අඩු කරාට පස්සේ ඇතිවෙච්ච නියම් තත්ත්වය සහ සමනලව ජලාශයෙන් ජලය නිකුත් කිරීම කියන කාරණාවත් තාප විදුලිය අධික මුදලක් අපිට දරන්න සිදුවීම කාරණා නිසා අපිට අද අය ක්‍රමයේ තියෙනවා රුපියල් බිලියන 30ක පමණ පරතරයක් පියවා ගැනීම සඳහා. ඒ නිසා තමයි විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය ඉල්ලීමක් කළා තියෙන මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසමෙන් අපිට යම් අගය වෙනස් කිරීමක් කළා දෙන්න කියලා. නමුත් මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසම තමයි තීරණය කළ යුත්තේ නියෝජක කතානායකතුමනි.
රජය ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය ආරමුදල සමග එකගතාවයට අනුව 2024 වර්ෂයේ අවසාන විට සම්පූර්ණ කළ යුතු සමස්ත ක්‍රියාකාරකම් සහ ඉලක්ක 93කි. ඒ අනුව 2023 අගෝස්තු මාසයේ වන විට එකඟ වූ ක්‍රියාකාරකම් 51න් 47ක් සම්පූර්ණ කරන ලදී.
මෙතුමා ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂත් එක්ක ඉන්න කාලෙත් හැමදාම වචන වවාරනවා. අපි 2020 ජනවාරි මාසේ කිව්වේ IMF යන්න කියලා. මේගොල්ලෝ ගියේ නෑ. මේගොල්ලෝ අවුරුදු දෙකක් ප්‍රමාද වෙලා ගියේ. ඒතකොට බංගලොත්
මුදල් රාජ්‍ය ඇමතිතුමාම තමයි ගිය ආණ්ඩුව කාලේ කිව්වේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා මහ බැංකු බැඳුම් කර මංකොලට වක් කියන්න ඕන කියලා ඉවරලා. අද එතුමා අපි සතුටු වෙනවා. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාගේ ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිපත්ති
දෙපැත්තම කියනවා මං හරි කියලා. ඒ දෙපැත්තම එකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරන්න බැරි. ඉතින් මේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය දෙපැත්තම පිළිගන්න නිසා අපි දෙපැත්තම එකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරමු.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිව්වා එකට වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා අපිට යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න කියලා. EPF එකේ ස්වාධීන කළමනාකාරීත්වය. මේක ඉක්මන් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් රටේ වැඩ කරන හැමෝටම බලපානවා.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අර්ථසාධක අරමුදල් බාරකාර අරමුදල් දෙකම එකට එකතු කරලා ස්වාධීන මණ්ඩලයක් යටතේ ඒ වැඩ කටයුතු ගෙනියන්න. We want both ETF and EPF to be brought in. The question is whether other independent funds also should come into it. Now investments, should we allow part of that money to be invested abroad? I think we should. As the situation improves, these are the savings of the people of the country, so we'll allow it to be even invested abroad. Let us, මං හිතන්නේ මම එකඟයි මේ දෙකම අපි කතා කරන එක.
Head of the State-Owned Enterprise Restructuring Unit, Suresh Shah, says the first round of divestiture process will be completed by the first quarter of next year. Addressing a media briefing today, Shah said that the recommendations of the transaction advisor of Sri Lankan Airlines, the International Finance Corporation, is expected by the end of this year. Speaking further, Shah said that approximately 85 entities have been identified by the State-Owned Enterprises Restructuring Unit as entities that can be privatized.
A briefing on the restructuring of state-owned enterprises was held this evening with the participation of various heads of media institutions.
ගොඩක් වෙලාවට විදේශාධික හෝ දේශීයාධික කියලා රජයේ යම්කිසි ව්‍යාපාරයකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න කරනකොට කියනවා මේක රාජ්‍ය දේපල රටේ දේපල විකිණීමක් කියලා. විකිණීම නෙවෙයි මේක පුද්ගලිකාංශය හෝ විදේශාධික කියලා ආයෝජනයක් කරන්නේ. ඒ කිරීමේදී ආයෝජනය අරන් එන්න ඕනේ. ඒතර ඒ ආයෝජනයට අවශ්‍ය කරන ඇසෙට් එක දෙන්න ඕනේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට. එහෙම නැතුව ව්‍යාපාරයක් පවත්වාගෙන යන්න නැහැ. එතකොට මෙතන තියෙන ගොඩක් කල අපි දකින්න මතය තමයි විශේෂයෙන් අපි දකින්නේ මේ රාජ්‍ය දේපල විකුණනවා කියලා කියන. අත් වශයෙන් මේක ඊට වඩා වෙනස් මතයක් මම දකින්නේ මේ රාජ්‍ය දේපල හෝ කාගේ හරි දේපල කියන්නේ රජය කියන්නේ බදු කියන ජනතාවටයි දේපල. ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒකට නියමිත ප්‍රතිලාභය ලැබෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ජනතාවට අවශ්‍ය සේවය ලැබෙන්නේ නැත්නම් කරන්න පුළුවන් කෙනෙක් කියලා මුදල් ආයෝජනය කරලා ඒක ඊට වඩා හොඳින් කරගෙන යනවා නම් ඒක තමයි ආයෝජනය කියන එක. ඒතර
අපි දැකලා තියෙනවා සමහර අංශවලදී සඳහන් කරා වගේම 122ක් 23ක් වගේ දළ දේශීය නිෂ්පාදීන් තිබුණ ආදායම තමයි මේ වෙනකොට 8ක් 9ක් වගේ ලෝකේ අඩුම මට්ටමකට වැටිලා තියෙන්නේ. රාජ්‍ය ව්‍යාපාරත් මේ විදිහට දිගින් දිගටම පාඩු ලැබලා රජයට නැත්නම් මහා භාණ්ඩාගාරයට බරක් වුණොත් අපිට හැකියාවක් නැහැ ඉදිරියට ඒ සඳහා මුදල් ලබා දෙන්න. එහෙමනම් අනිවාර්යෙන් අපි මේ වෙනස් විය යුතුයි. මේ වෙනස කළ යුතුමයි. අපි ඉස්සරහට යන්න නම් නැත්නම් අපි එකතරට ගිහිල්ලා හිර වෙනවා.
We have prepared an SOE policy and we have submitted that policy to Cabinet and Cabinet has approved that policy. We are attempting to convert the SOE policy into legislation and we hope to take that legislation to Parliament or the draft bill to Parliament before the end of
this year. In terms of progress on the current divestitures, there are 7 entities, as all of you know: Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lanka Telecom, Sri Lanka Insurance, Litro, Hyatt, Hilton, and Lanka Hospitals. The request for EOIs for the Hilton, Hyatt, and Lanka Hospital will be out shortly. Actually, the EOIs are ready as of now. We are managing the logistics in trying to get dates sorted out for publication in the international and local press. We are trying to get them all done together. And for the other enterprises, the EOIs will be published within the next 5 weeks or so. We hope to complete the first round of divestitures in the first quarter of 2024 and the others during the second quarter of 2024. And the intention with these divestitures, particularly with the big entities like Sri Lanka Insurance, is to make these entities much stronger, more competitive, more dynamic businesses by attracting the right investors into these companies.
Do you expect some decision on whether you will unbundle it or whether you will sell the cannibalize it and sell different?
The transaction advisor for Sri Lankan Airlines is the International Finance Corporation, or the IFC. So they will give us their recommendation. We should expect it hopefully before the end of this year. Then we will take a look at their recommendation and we'll play it accordingly. දැනට කැබිනට් එක අපිට අප්‍රූවල් දීලා තියෙන 7කට කමර්ෂල් ඉකොනොමික් පර්ස්පෙක්ටිව් එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම ආයතන 80කට වැඩිය තියෙනවා ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර් එකට දාන්න පුළුවන්. අවශ්‍ය නැහැ ආණ්ඩුවට ඔව තියාගන්න. නමුත් දේශපාලනයේ පැත්තෙන් බැලුවොත් එහෙම ඔය සංඛ්‍යාව අඩු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඉකොනොමික් ඇන්ඩ් කමර්ෂල් පර්ස්පෙක්ටිව් එකක් ගත්තොත් එහෙම 85ක් විතර තියෙනවා ප්‍රයිවටයිස් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
In other news, Dushni Veerakon, the Executive Director of the Sri Lanka Institute of Policy Studies, says that adapting import restrictions can support mitigating the issues related to foreign exchange in the country. However, in the medium and long term, the restrictions will affect the country's export competitiveness in the region. Emphasizing the key factors to introduce more investors, bringing in foreign direct investments to a country, Veerakon said that the South Asian region must focus on having policy consistency and political stability.
The South Asia region has the highest level of public debt to GDP of any of the emerging market regions that we track. It has a country in an active debt restructuring process in Sri Lanka. It has a number of other countries that are classified as being at risk of falling into debt distress.
The conditions under which South Asia is operating now have changed quite a bit. Right, we are no longer in the zero interest rate environment. Interest rates are marching up all around the world. We are also in a situation where oil is now $90 a barrel. How did those two shifts in the macro circumstances of the region affect?
South Asia are prone to embracing protection in not only as short-term risk management tools, but also more in the medium to long term. And some of our countries, and I place Sri Lanka as one of the countries that rolled out series of restrictions. To me, I mean, at a point when your balance of payment position is extremely under pressure, I think short-term import restrictions on certain non-essential consumer items like vehicle imports, etc., I think that's justifiable. But the risk is that these tend to kind of then spread more widely into other consumer imports as well as into intermediate imports, and that also then has a downside impact on our export competitiveness. So as a short-term tool, yes, I think in certain conditions we can learn to live with it, but over the medium to long term, import restrictions really should not be deployed. It is a vicious cycle, and if we continue with that policy, we will not be able to improve our export performance. And that is the only way that we can ensure that the region is less vulnerable to similar risks in the future as well. The problem for South Asia really has been that we have not been able to push through a reform agenda and sustain it. We tend to see policy reversals with changes of government, and that really is the problem here.
Vehicles in Sri Lanka played a large role in multiple accidents that left a total of 29 people injured today. 6 people were reported injured after 2 buses collided in the Beruwala area today. The injured were hospitalized for treatment at the General Hospital in Kalutara. In Muscalia, meanwhile, a lorry had rolled down a cliff, injuring 21 people. With that, let's take a look at some developments from around the island in brief.
According to the police, 6 people have sustained injuries in a crash in Beruwala which involved 2 buses. Report shows that a Gore Colombo air-conditioned bus and an SLTB bus travelling between Kataragama and Colombo were involved in the motor crash. The injured are currently being treated at the General Hospital in Kaluthara after they were transferred from the Berula Divisional Hospital. A lorry had reportedly rolled down a cliff in the Muskelia area in Aurelia, injuring 21 people. According to the police, the injured, 17 women and 4 men, were admitted to the Dikoya Base Hospital for treatment. They added that the driver had not been able to control the vehicle as it skidded off the road and fell down the cliff. In Berula, meanwhile, a 3-wheeler carrying 2 children and 2 adults had reportedly collided with a train. Both adults were injured in the accident. The accident had taken place at an unsafe railway crossing in the Marakkalawatta-Hena road. Further, the accident was recorded in a nearby CCTV camera.
More business news after this short break. Stay tuned.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ඩීමෝ වෙතින්.
Welcome back. Litrogas Lanka announced an upward price revision of the domestic gas cylinders today in line with rising prices in the global market scheduled to come into effect from midnight tonight. Concurrently, Lavs Gas PLC also announced a price revision of the domestic gas cylinder, which is also due to come into effect from midnight tonight. In line with prices in the global market, Litrogas Lanka made an announcement pertaining to a price revision of domestic LP gas today. Accordingly, Chairman of Litrogas Lanka, Mudita Piris, made an announcement on the relevant price revision based on the price revising formula. The price revision is scheduled to come into effect from midnight today. Per the revised prices, the price of a 12.5 kg Litrogas cylinder is expected to be increased by 343 rupees to 3,470 rupees a cylinder. Meanwhile, the 5 kg gas cylinder is to have its price increased by 137 rupees to 1,393 rupees. The 2.3 kg cylinder, meanwhile, is to be increased by 63 rupees to 650 rupees.
It is pertinent to mention that in January 2023, when the LPG world gas price was over $611 and the market price of a 12.5 kg was 4,409 rupees. However, today at the same LPG price level, which is about USD 611, today's world gas price, we are issuing the 12.5 kg cylinder at 3,470 rupees, which is approximately about 900 less. This is mainly to the stock management and structural cost reduction initiatives implemented by the management. We are expecting the global market prices to increase in the next few months too, which is November, December and January. However, we will ensure that the burden to the consumers will be minimized like we have done during the recent past months.
Meanwhile, Lavs Gas PLC has also decided to revise prices of its domestic gas cylinders in line with the price revision announced by Litrogas Lanka and in consideration of current prices prevailing in the global market. The 12.5 kg cylinder is to have its price increased by 150 rupees, bringing its new price to 3,985 rupees. The price of a 5 kg gas cylinder, meanwhile, is to be increased by 60 rupees to 1,595 rupees. Further, the 2 kg gas cylinder was increased by 24 rupees and its new price stands at 683 rupees. The price revision will come into effect from midnight tonight. The Sri Lankan Fisheries Department has decided to release 100 million fish fry and 50 million freshwater shrimp fingerlings using an allocation of 100 million rupees into the reservoir during the remaining period of this year to sustain the freshwater fish and shrimp population in the reservoirs. Accordingly, around 500 million fish fry is scheduled to be continuously released into reservoirs annually for the production of economically effective freshwater fish with high growth in the reservoirs. However, due to insufficient depositing of fish fry, it has not been possible to fully utilize the potential of the existing reservoirs for culture-based fisheries. In 2023, 230 million fish fry and 80 million shrimp fingerlings were scheduled to be deposited in reservoirs. However, the original plan had to be amended due to the drying up of reservoirs due to the recent dry weather and drought. The Cabinet of Ministers has also granted approval to the revised plan proposed by the Minister of Fisheries to continue this project this year. Meanwhile, the government has also decided to rent the Oluville Ports Complex to TESS Private Company Limited for a period of 10 years subject to the relevant rent being charged monthly as recommended by the Cabinet-appointed Negotiation Committee. Good news in stocks as the Colombo bourse gained today following gains in the banking and financial sector stocks. The all-share price index closed up 0.42% at 11,080.79 points, gaining after falling for 2 straight sessions. And the S&P SL20 was up 0.3% at 3,121.29 points. Trading volume rose to 33.8 million shares from 29.7 million shares in the previous session. Equity market turnover rose to 874.3 million rupees from 854.5 million rupees in the previous session. High net worth and institutional investor participation was noted in John Keel's Holdings, Melster Corp and Dialogue Asiata. Mixed interest was observed in Capital Alliance, First Capital Holdings and National Development Bank, whilst retail interest was noted in UB Finance Company, SoftLogic Capital and Browns Investments. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Meanwhile, our market outlook expert Kushan Bhattawala of Capital Alliance has some thoughts in our economic outlook segments as follows.
At the bond auction held last week, the 3-year bond was placed at 15.64% and the 5-year bond was placed as 14.52%. At the Treasury bill auction, the 3-month bill saw a reduction and it was placed at 17.42%, where the previous week's rate was 18.12%. The 6 months and 1 year rates didn't change much. The 6 months was placed at 15.13% and the 12 months at 13.30%. During the last week, the average weighted prime lending rate continued its reduction and it reduced by 0.14% to 14.67%. The exchange rate was largely stable during the week in the interbank secondary market. It traded between 324 and 324.5, and today in the interbank market it was quoted at 323.75. During the last week, the secondary market interest rates didn't change much, and however, with the IMF press release, the market became volatile, with rates increasing by close to 0.25% initially and then reducing by close to 0.5 to 0.75% on the back of the monetary policy announcement to be held tomorrow.
Let's look at how the rupee fared against other currencies during the day today. Sri Lanka's National Development Bank has been named the most innovative banking brand in Sri Lanka by the Global Brands magazine UK. This and more corporate news from Sri Lanka today in our corporate affairs segment for the day. Sri Lanka's National Development Bank has won the title of the most innovative digital banking brand Sri Lanka 2023 by the Global Brands magazine UK. Additionally, NDB was also named as the leading SME banking brand Sri Lanka and the best banking brand for women empowerment Sri Lanka. The Global Brands Award were established with the aim of honouring excellence in performance and rewarding companies across different sectors that have performed in the fields of finance, education, hospitality, lifestyle, automobiles and technology. Liva Ayush, a brand of Unilever Sri Lanka, partnered with the Department of Ayurveda's Ayurex Colombo 2023 as the title sponsor for the international conference focused on the promotion and advancement of traditional medicine held on the 8th, 9th and 10th of September 2023 at the BMICH. Furthermore, Liva Ayush partnered with the Department of Ayurveda as the main sponsor for the exhibition and trade fair held in parallel to the conference. Kahawatha Plantation has appointed Binesh Pananwala as the Chief Executive Officer of the company with effect from the 1st of October. Prior to joining Kahawatha Plantations, Pananwala held the position of Chief Executive Officer at Wattawala Plantations PLC and Wattawala Dairy Limited of Sunshine Holdings PLC. He is currently the President of the All Island Dairy Association. And on that triumphant note, I end my bulletin for tonight. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Thank you for joining us. See you again tomorrow. Good night. God bless.
For news News and information you can trust 24 hours a day. Visit AdaDerana.lk.